Typically, our Friday videos are meant for financial education or to give you a different perspective on certain financial planning topics. But it just so happens today I have a break in my regularly scheduled programming and I can bring to you episode 4 of how we manage our money. Now, the whole point of this series is to show you that I too am trying to live by the same principles that I preach to everyone else. It will never be perfect, but it's the perfect way to hold myself accountable. Not only do these videos give me a way to keep myself accountable when it comes to my money, my hope is that it will help inspire you to dig into your finances and make whatever changes are necessary for you to hit your financial goals. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Financial Wellness Planning. My name is Derek Coffey, and I'm the founder of FWP. And if you're new to our channel or you're new to this specific series, I am giving you an in-depth look at my money and the decisions that I make with it. The purpose of these videos is to be transparent. I'm not a millionaire yet. I don't have a bunch of real estate that provides me cash flow every single month, and I didn't build a business that I ultimately sold for a whole bunch of money. My wife and I own a very small coffee shop in our local community, and we're doing our best to get by on $60,000 a year. So we're going to get right into the money. This month, we received our first raise in a very long time. And a lot of that was due to an expansion that we did within the coffee shop where it put quite the damper on our savings within the business. So to help build that savings back up, we cut ourselves short on money for a little while. Well, June, we finally rewarded ourselves a little bit. What you're quickly going to realize is that little bit of additional money that we received, it went out the window. And this is what I want you to understand. We fit everyone else's situation. If you get a raise at work, most likely something's going to go wrong and you're going to have to spend that money. That's exactly what happened to us. But on to the numbers. So for the month, our net income was $3,795 from the coffee shop. And comparing that to what we received in May, it was about a $270 net increase in pay. Now, for our miscellaneous income, we had the $172 that comes from Veterans Affairs for the small disability check that I get. We also received another $100 from a gap insurance policy that I had on a vehicle that I sold. So for the month, our total net income was $4,073.86. Now, our expenses for the month were a little out of hand. Our needs-based spending was $3,477, or 85.37% of our net income. And if you haven't watched the video that I did quite a while ago on budgeting, I believe in a 70-15-15 budgeting system, where 70% of your take-home pay is allocated towards your needs-based spending. 15% goes to savings, and then the final 15% goes to spending on whatever you want to spend your money on. But for the month of June, our needs-based spending was way out of hand. The normal expenses looked fine. Mortgage, $650 a month, phones, $260, streaming was $61. We have the loan payment that we make on a piece of property that we own, that we hope to build a house on in the future. We have $129 that goes for the medical bills that we incurred for having our son. All of those looked good. Our auto insurance went down to $57 for the month, which is right in line with where it should be. Last month, it was a little bit elevated, but that's because we got a new policy and we had to pay the first 2 months up front. The electric bill, that was about a $50 reduction from May. We had a somewhat mild June, so the AC didn't run as much as normal. Our water bill, we paid bi-monthly, so we didn't have that expense in May, so we covered it in June. Fuel for the vehicles wasn't that far out of hand. But then we get to groceries. Our grocery bill for the month of June was $787, and this is way out of whack for us. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that we made 3 large grocery trips in the month of June. Typically, we only make 2, and they're usually around $250 a piece, and then we'll have a couple of trips in between just to get things we maybe missed or toilet paper, paper towels, things of that sort. But in the month of June, we had to make 3 of those very large trips, and that put our grocery bill way over budget. But that's how life works. There's nothing we really could have done about it. I could have price shopped at other places, but it wouldn't have saved much money. So with our diets and the way that we eat, which isn't all that healthy, we still spent almost $800 on groceries in the month of June. The next big expense that we had for the month were property taxes. $80 of this was for an additional lot that we own adjacent to our house. For whatever reason, it's not included with the house, so we pay the personal property taxes separate on that. We actually paid the full year, so it only cost us $80. We don't have to worry about it in December, but it was an $80 expense that we incurred in June. The other $160 was for the property taxes on the land that we own, and we're going to have to pay that again in December. But $160 isn't that bad. It's just farmland for the time being. $160. It's not too bad. But these were expenses that we had anticipated. We knew that these were coming. We had an overage in May. We had just over $600 left over once all of the bills were paid. So we kept some of that money aside. That's what got us through the month of June. Life insurance, still $102 a month. That's for a $300,000 term policy that I have on myself. Health insurance for my wife and my son, just shy of $80. And then our other needs-based spending for the month wasn't that bad. It was actually $1 less than what we had spent in May. And a lot of that is other doctor bills that we've incurred, and we just put it on a payment plan. There's no interest. There's no rush to pay it off. We just pay the monthly amounts until they're paid off. Our savings for the month was $500, which is $111 shy of that 15% threshold that we would like to hit. But based on the way things are set up right now, finding that $100 is fairly tough. Miscellaneous spending came in at $402.59, which is still really good. I do look forward to the day that we can increase that a little bit and enjoy life a little bit more. But at $402 a month for miscellaneous spending, I'm pleased with that. And it's well under the 15% threshold we want to keep it at. So for the month, we were down $306 by the time it was all said and done. Again, we had $600 left over from May, so it kind of came out as a wash. The next thing we're going to go over is our net worth. So in our savings, we have $4,250, and this is actually a decrease from the $5,000 we'd been carrying throughout this series. And the reason we experienced that decrease was because I dipped into it to pay for a vacation that we're taking with my family. And the reason that I thought it was okay to get into that savings account was I haven't been on vacation with my family since I graduated college, and that was in 2010. So to make up for some of that lost time, I figured it would be okay to part ways with some of the money to make sure I can go spend quality time with them. Now, it still gives us the $1,000 per person that I like to have sitting in cash just in case an emergency comes up. So I self-justified it a little bit, but there's still over $4,000 sitting there. I get to go spend time with my family. It seemed like it was worth the money, at least to me. For our Roth IRAs, I had just shy of $18,000 in mine. My wife had just over $27,000 in hers, and that was a nice improvement from the month of May. During June, the stock market had a great month, and we saw some decent growth within our accounts. For our debt, we still have $58,900 left on the piece of property that we purchased. That's $525 a month. We still have just over $2,000 left on those medical bills that we're paying on, and I'm in no hurry to pay that off. I'm not paying any interest on it. So I'm in no hurry to get rid of that debt. I don't have the means to get rid of the other debt any quicker. So we're just going to keep making those minimum payments and carry on. For our house, we still owe $112,250 on it, and that brings our total liabilities to $173,205. Our liquid net worth as of June is negative $124,000. Now, there are some other things that I don't include in my net worth that could potentially make this number positive. I don't include the value of our business because I don't know what that value is. Obviously, we would want that number to be as high as it can possibly be, but it's only worth what someone will pay for it. So because I don't know the value of it, I don't know what someone would be willing to pay for it, I'm not going to put a value on it, and I'm not going to include it in our net worth. And the same thing goes for our house. We can go on Zillow, come up with an idea of maybe what that house is worth, but we don't really know until it goes on the market and it's actually sold. So there are some other things that would factor into net worth, at least for most people, that we don't include. But right now, it's negative $124,000, and I'm okay with it. We're moving in the right direction. And this is actually a $2,000 increase over what we had at the end of May. The next thing that I want to go over is our emergency fund situation. Now, we do have the $4,250 that's set aside in the bank. And that's going to cover almost any immediate emergency that we may face. But when it comes to a true emergency fund, meaning the multiples of income need that we should have set aside, we're a little bit short, at least in our personal savings. So on this sheet, there are 3 questions that I ask the people that I work with: your age, how stable is your job, and how steady is your pay. Depending on how they answer those questions, that's how we determine how much money they need to have set aside in their true emergency fund. For us, our true emergency fund need is $24,443. We factor in the $4,250 that we have set aside, and that leaves us about $20,000 short of what we should have set aside in cash. Now, the one thing that I don't factor into this is savings that we have within our business. Now, I leave the money within the business because it's meant for the business and any emergencies that it may face. But if we do hit a very rough patch, we can always take a distribution and cover those emergencies that we have personally. Now, if we factor that in, our emergency fund is more than full, but at some point I would like to build up our cash pile outside of the business. When it comes to our life insurance coverages, we're right in the middle of where we need to be. Now, when I work with people, we talk about whole life insurance and term life insurance. Yes, there are other types of life insurance that you could use, but for the majority of the people I work with, whole life and term life is going to be fine. Whole life insurance is meant to dispose of your body whatever way you wish. Any other coverage that you need should be done with term. Now, there are 2 ways that I go about calculating how much term coverage someone should have. The first one is having enough to pay off the debt. So if you pass away prematurely, your beneficiaries aren't left with any of the debt that you leave behind. So for us personally, we have $173,205 in debt. I have a $300,000 term policy, and that's going to be more than enough to pay off that debt. And it'll also leave my wife with another $130,000 to continue living on. Now, I do have a $50,000 whole life policy, and that's what's going to dispose of my body the way that I wish. Now, I personally want to be cremated. I don't want any bells and whistles when it comes to my funeral, so there should be even some money left over once all of those bills are paid. So ultimately, I have $350,000 of coverage on myself. It's enough to pay off the debt, it's enough to dispose of the body, but it's not quite enough to replace income. And that's the second option that we go over when it comes to term life coverage, is having enough coverage to replace your income for a certain period of time. And this could be long enough to pay off your house. It could be enough to get your kids out of the house. It could be for any reason that you wish. But having enough term coverage to replace your income is going to take a lot of stress off of the ones you leave behind. Now, for us personally, if we wanted 20 years of our net income, we would have to have $910,000 of term life coverage. Now, we're way behind if we wanted to replace income, but I did go through the process of getting another $400,000 in coverage. Now, I'm 34 years old, I'm overweight, I'm a nicotine user, I got diagnosed with sleep apnea, so you can imagine how favorable those premiums are. Well, it works out for a 30-year policy, $400,000 in coverage. It's going to cost me over $180 a month. Now, as we just went over when it comes to the budget, that's really not going to fit. So it's something that we're going to have to skip out on for now, but hopefully it's something we can put in place in the not too distant future. Now, there are some things we could do to bring those costs down. I could shorten that term. Instead of 30 years, we could bring it back to 20 years. That would be plenty of time to get my son out of the house, or at least get him to adulthood. I could also lose weight. That wouldn't hurt anything at all. I could also quit nicotine. I'm not on pace to do either of those at the moment, but it is something I should consider to help bring these costs down and get the coverages that I need. The final thing we're going to look at is our retirement readiness. What you see on your screen is our income replacement estimator, and the whole purpose of this sheet is to give us a target to save for. Right now, we make $60,000 a year. If we anticipate receiving a 3% raise from now until the time we retire, or age 65, then our salary at retirement should be $145,635. If we take into account the $45,000 that we have in our Roth IRAs now, as well as the $500 a month that we're contributing to them, then we're a little bit behind when it comes to our retirement savings. The calculations you see on your screen, the 70% or the 50%, are all based on if you anticipate taking debt with you into retirement. Based on the way that we live, we don't anticipate taking debt with us into retirement, so our target is going to be the 50%. Now, if we did anticipate taking debt with us, then we would focus more on the 70% number. But $2.5 million is a large hill to climb. 1.8 is no small feat, but it's a little bit more achievable than the 2.5. So, taking all of those things into consideration, even at an 8% rate of return, we're $506 per month short of hitting our retirement goal. Now, I'm not going to raise too many red flags, at least at this point, because of the coffee shop. There is some value to that business, and we do anticipate selling that business at some point. Even though we don't know what that value is, it should be a decent amount, and that's what's going to help bolster our retirement savings and get us more on track. Now, if we never sold the shop, then we would need to make some severe adjustments to make sure we were putting away that $500 a month. But at this point, we're going to let the coffee shop do its thing, and then hopefully we can sell it and get ourselves much closer than what we are right now. So there you have it. Those are our finances for the month of June. It wasn't pretty, certainly wasn't perfect. I mean, we spent more money than we brought in, but we knew that that was coming. We had the $600 surplus from May that carried over, and that's what got us through June. And to be quite honest, July's not shaping up to be much better than June. We're going to have a lot of expenses that I'll show you next month that came out. But this is how finances work. It isn't perfect. It isn't pretty. There's always going to be ups and downs. Hell, we made $270 more in June than we did in May, and we still ran a negative. But if we look out to August, August is going to have 5 pay periods in it. I'm hoping that that's going to be enough to get us back to the surplus, hopefully refill that savings account that I decided to use to pay for our vacation, and make all things well again. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If this video or any of the other videos that I have put out has provided you value, then hit that subscribe button. If you know someone who's struggling with their finances and they just need that little kick in the butt to get them going, then send this video to them. Maybe it will help inspire them to dig into their finances and make the changes that they need to make. But I thank you so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you soon.